Good morning. What I'm going to do today is walk through a month-end closing procedures checklist. I'm not going to sit here and say this is 100% of everything that you should do, but it's a really good list of things and processes you should run in cost accounting on or before month end. So the first set, the run cost processes, these are processes that should be run, in my opinion, at least daily and do error correction on a daily basis, because then otherwise at month end you're going to be overwhelmed with everything that you need to do, and there's no reason to wait till the end of the month. As a cost accountant, this is something we should be looking at on a daily basis, fixing the issues so that our management reports will be correct. And we'll also walk through review cost accounting processes, how we can go look at some of these errors. We'll look at cost transactions and distributions, which is a new term in Redwood for review cost accounting distributions. We'll talk through periods, etc. The one I'm not going to get into a lot is reconcile cost valuation with general ledger. I'm not a general ledger guy, so I'm not the one that's going to be the best to show you how to do that. I can show you where cost valuation is in cost accounting, but the general ledger side, more for the finance guys. And then we'll talk about opening and closing periods at the end. So having said that, let's jump into the software. A lot of these processes that we run can be run from scheduled processes. So that's where we'll go, scheduled processes. The first one that I'm going to do is called transfer costs. And as I go through these, transfer, I'm just going to put in a little bit. I'm going to hit tab, let it resolve. Transfer cost to cost management. What this does, it transfers in AP invoice information back to cost accounting for things like PPV. So I'm going to put in our business unit, which in my demo world is US1 business unit. And you can, again, type part of it, hit tab, it'll find it. And then we'll put in a cutoff date. I'm going to put it on Friday just to show you something here. So put in the cutoff date. And then I recommend you run these on a schedule. So to run them on a schedule, you click advanced, schedule, use a schedule. And I'm going to run there's 4 of these that run really quick, and this is one of them. So I always put them on a schedule for like 3 minutes with an end date. And I do this when I'm setting up demos. What is Friday, the 23rd, 25, 11, 15, 19. Now this is in UTC time, Universal Coordinated Time, or London time if they're not on daylight savings time. That's how my system is set up. But what I want to show you is that if you have a cutoff date, the system will ask if you want to automatically increment that so that it'll move day by day as this moves through time and these kick off to run. Then we're going to click submit. And we'll refresh. And there we go. So this is going to run every 3 minutes because this one runs really quick. Of course, if you wait till month end, it'll take longer. But it sets up a master, and then it kicks off each child as it's completed. So this is to bring AP information in. So we're going to continue with the receipt side of things. And the next process we're going to run is called transfer transactions. And again, hitting the tab key, receiving the costing. So you see the little description here. It posts details from receiving into costing. So these are your purchase order receipts, etc., transfer receipts, whatever those happen to be. Notice there's no options on this one. Again, you can click advanced if you wish and put on a schedule. I won't do that for the rest of these. So we'll go ahead and submit that. And I'm submitting these in the order that I run them to make sure everything gets over to cost accounting in a orderly fashion, and that when you run create cost accounting distributions, or it has a new name now called process costing transactions or something like that, everything will be there for you. So then on the receiving side, the next one, I need to run from receipt accounting. So it looks like this environment doesn't have Redwood turned on. So we'll go to the taskbar when it resolves. And up here, the first option, create receipt, cost accounting receipt distributions. And again, you can put this on an advanced schedule. This one, to put it on an advanced schedule, I would run it every 15 to 20 minutes because it will take longer than these transfer transactions ones. And you don't want to set up a schedule that starts stepping on itself. So every 15 to 20 minutes on this one, I'm just going to go ahead and submit it to get the chain going. Now we've done receipt accounting. Now let's go do inventory transactions. And there's my 3. So the next one I run is transfer, inventory to costing. What this one does, it transfers all the inventory transactions. So inventory movement, shipments, transfer orders, all those kinds of things will be transferred over to the cost accounting. And here it asks by cost organization. So we're going to do my U.S. operations. Again, I can put it on a schedule. This is another one that runs really quickly. I would set this up for every 3 to 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and submit that. And the 5th one is called production to costing, transfer transactions from production to costing. And what this does is it brings over all the labor data collection, hours associated with machines and people. So this brings those transactions over into costing. And again, the parameters I run, I usually just run this wide open for everything. It doesn't take very long to run. Again, I can put it on a schedule, runs about 3 to 5 minutes is how I would set up the schedule. This one usually runs very quickly as well. And so the last one that we're going to do is transfer production to costing. Not production to costing, I'm sorry. It's create cost accounting distributions. I'm going to go to supply chain, and this one is in cost accounting. And the PowerPoint that I've added to the description below actually is you'll see the red one screens. So here we go, create cost accounting distributions. I have to do a search here to find it. And it's this one right here. So this runs everything. And I also set mine up to run the cost reports as well. You can put cutoff dates, user defined or automatic on that. So if I'm trying to run this after the cutoff date down here, this one that says 12/31, whoops, 12/31/32, you're not going to find anything. So you got to make sure that cutoff date is, greater than today. And so we're going to highlight this. I'm going to schedule this process. And again, I can do advanced. There's no options here. It runs wide open based on the parameters. This one takes a while to run. If you run it frequently, it might run in 15 minutes, 5 minutes. If you run it infrequently, it can run 30 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and submit this. So I call this the costings. And this is going to go out there and take all of these transactions that have been transferred over, the costing transactions, the receiving transactions, the inventory transactions, the production transaction. It's going to bring them all into the cost processor. It's going to attempt to cost them all and put them out there on a report for you to go look at. So those are all the cost processes that are going to be running. So here's the last one that I submitted, create cost accounting distributions running. Now, there's another process that I run that brings over revenue data into cost accounting. And this is so you can do margin analysis. You can compare revenue to cost of goods sold and all those kinds of good things. It's called import revenue lines. So this brings in revenue. It'll bring it in from order. If you don't have revenue recognition or revenue management turned on, it will bring it over from order management and from AR. If RevRec is turned on, it brings us over from RevRec, revenue management, after the revenue lines are recognized. So if you have unrecognized revenue, it won't show up in cost accounting as part of your margin analysis. So we're going to click OK on this. Business unit is US1 for me. And then we have this number of child workers. No idea what that does. I've tried to change it, and it doesn't seem to change the processing. On my import as of date, if I put it on an advance, if I put it on a schedule to run in the background, then I'll get that same auto increment because I have an as of date. But we're just going to go submit this for now. There's another one here. If you're dealing with maintenance transactions, and you have to have access to maintenance to do this, you can bring over transactions from maintenance to costing, and that's only available if you have access to the maintenance system. So once all of these run, the next thing I like to run is, and we'll go into cost accounting to do this, is create accounting. So create accounting creates journal entries and sends them over to the general ledger. And so we have to pick our ledger, which is in my case, the primary ledger. I run it wide open as of date. But right here in this accounting mode, run it in draft. So this will draft your journal entries, but won't send them to the general ledger and won't post them. You'll notice that down here, transfer and post are no's. So it's not final. That way, if there are errors in account assignment or something like that, then you can fix it, rerun it before you get to the general ledger, before we start messing with like balance sheets and income statements, right? So again, run this in draft mode. And this is something you can run frequently, check it out, fix things so that at month end, again, it's not a horrible process to go do all this at once. So we're going to go ahead and submit that. So that's setting up all the processes that we need to run. So the next thing we do once we run these processes, there's something called review cost accounting processes. And the first thing I'm going to do is go get the process number from the last create cost accounting distribution that I ran, which is right here. So this is the line that we ran. This is the process ID. So I'm going to do a Control-C and copy that. And where I'm going to go now is to, and I always have fun trying to find this, review cost accounting processes right here. And so what this will do, I'll put my process ID in, the one that I just copied, and I want to see errors. And I'm going to click search. So it brings up all the errors that you found. And when you look at this process, I'm going to probably jump out of here. It probably ended in this database, here it is, as warning. When you're doing month-end processing, you want that to be succeeded. You don't want warnings. So what we're looking at now in cost accounting process, review cost accounting processes are those errors that created those warnings, right? So here they are. An item cost profile was not generated. Outgoing inventory couldn't be costed because there's no layer cost. Well, this is probably actual cost. Well, what are those? Well, if I click the record count, it's going to open up and show me all the transactions that were problematic. And so then I can see these are work orders. It looks like there's some sales orders, some miscellaneous stuff. So I need to go review these and try to solve what happened, right? So it couldn't cost these for some reason. You might find things down here at the bottom. Here we go. That a period is not open. So cost accounting doesn't like it when general ledger periods and cost accounting periods are not open. If the cost accounting period is open, but maybe the GL period is open, we're going to get errors and we're going to have to open those periods to be able to post those transactions. Now, having said that, don't go opening prior periods without permission from your chief accounting officers and those that are responsible for that, because you could start messing with prior period adjustments, which is something we need to be careful of. Here we have standard costs for this transaction don't exist. So what that means is I need to go and create a cost scenario and make sure that we have costs for these. These are actually outside process in my system item notes. We've got to put costs on those, and then it'll be able to push those through. You can see these are from fairly recently, right? So again, all these errors, each one of them, you can go through and say, how would I fix it? What do I need to do to get there? Source is going to because estimated resource rate. So this means somewhere there's a labor rate missing. And this should give me resource transactions. So this is my resource, container machine 2, and nobody put in a labor rate or a machine rate for that. So I would have to open up a cost scenario and create labor rates or machine rates for these kinds of errors. And you would have to date it previous to this date so that it would be accepted. Okay, so that's dealing with all those errors. Once we get these errors under control, the next thing that I like to do is go into review cost accounting distributions. Now in Redwood, this is going to be different. They've really tweaked it down where you have to really get a narrow subset because development has performance metrics that they have to meet when they're dealing with Redwood. But here, this is the old world, so I'm going to go US, I think it's US operations. I want finance. And I'm going to say on or after, on or after last year, right? And this is going to take a bit, so I'm going to click search. Whoops. Cost book is, well, I'll just run that wide open. So I'm going to click search. And I'll probably pause the recording while that does its search, because we all know this takes a while. Okay, so my search results have come back, and you can see all these transactions. And the columns are going to focus on our costing status and accounting status. And up here, you can click advanced, and I have those two same boxes here that I can now sort on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I don't want fully costed. So I want to see everything that's in error, excluded, not processed, or partially costed. Okay. So then I'll click search to research on this. And some of the errors that I'm going to find here are the same errors that we just saw under the cost processes. So cleaning up one will partially clean up the issues that you might find here. So it's come back. You can see a lot of not processed with past dates. Sometimes that's because a period's not open in the general ledger or a period's not open in cost accounting. So you would have to go open those periods. I then just resorted it to show me anything that was in error excluded or partially costed. Didn't find anything. So what I'm going to do is see if I can't push this back a ways to see what we can find. I'll probably pause this while this search goes on. until it comes back, because I'm going back to the beginning of time in this database to find some errors. Okay, so this brought some errors out way back in 2016 in demo database. But you can see errors here that say things like partially costed, in error, things like that. And the intent is to highlight these, click view detailed. I think I've clicked a few of these before. It's supposed to give you an error message, which in this case, I don't think that's happened very often. But it'll give you some idea of what's going on. It could be that a lower level cost didn't happen, which means in a work order, some component or subassembly isn't costed, so it couldn't cost the parent. This could be some of those same errors we saw where there's no standard cost set up. It could be that somebody did a transaction in an actual cost world and didn't include the costing in it. So a lot of reasons that you'll see things here. You can do the same. It's going to take a minute for this will of death. You should be able to see here transaction errors, and I think I've reviewed most of these. I don't see any transaction errors on them. But you can do the same thing with the accounting status, right? You can see all accounting statuses. You can see just show me the error messages, right? Something that's not accounted, or there's an error and there's none in this system. I've already tried to find them. So, and then you can go through and figure out with view errors and see why it's missing. But this is this other thing that needs to be clean. You ought to be able to go through here and look for errors and not find any. And then you know that at least from this perspective, and if you've gone through the previous step of review cost accounting processes, you should be able in that create cost accounting distributions runs clean, meaning succeeded, not in warning or error. Then all your accounting problems, at least from a costing perspective, should be taken care of. And then you can run your create cost accounting, create accounting, I'm sorry, in final mode and post everything over to your general ledger. So the next step that we want to go to is actually review the managed cost accounting periods. And so we're going to go into US operations, and I'm just going to run this. And these are the different books that are out there. We can see here that my primary ledger has, this period, last period, next period open. But what we do here is we run a validation. And it's going to go look to see if there's anything out there that needs to be dealt with, anything in the interfaces, anything that's pending, etc., before we close this period. Yeah, we'll see if that process is finished. It's running. So when it finishes running, then we'll be able to go in and see what the exceptions are. And the way we get there is we go to cost accounting and we go back into the periods, manage cost accounting periods. And since I went into scheduled process, I need to reopen this. And I can view exceptions, this button right here. So previously we ran the validations and it's running or has finished, and we're going to view exceptions. And so what this is telling me is everywhere that there's an exception, stuff that got stuck in an interface or whatever, it appears that, at least from this perspective, there's nothing pending that needs to be done. Even tells you that there's completed work orders that are not closed, because if you don't close the work order, it won't final cost those. So this is something you want to do and make sure you have no pending issues here. Wonder if that's finished running. Yeah, there we go. So it's finished running now. So we have pending cost processing. We can click on this and it brings us over here to review cost accounting processes. And we can take a look at what those 41 items are. Okay, so the trade in transit receipt can't be costed. So it has all these errors that need to be resolved before we can close the books. So once we've gone through with that and that we've run the validation or inventory valuation with the general ledger, then the last step really is, in the end, we're going to go in and we're going to close the period. And we're probably going to want to also open the next period. And I'm not going to do that here because I don't want to close anything or open anything, but that's how you do it. You click on it, go to actions, and you can close pending, close permanently. And then you can open, etc. So again, this is kind of a checklist of the things to do at month end, because there really is no month end processing or process that you run. A lot of legacy cost accounting systems want to do an inventory roll forward. Doesn't exist in this system. The system is cost dated, so it always calculates beginning and ending balances every time you ask for them. And so there's really no month-end process. It goes through and does all these things for you and then prepares you for the next period. You have to go through a checklist and make sure everything is great before you close out the month. Hope this was helpful. There will be a PowerPoint and some other links for you down there of like setting up standards and opening and closing periods and those kinds of things that might be helpful. So thanks a lot for your attendance today and have a great day.